Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund is a unique investment that impacts the Christian community as well as the hearts and lives of those served by local church ministries. Thrivent's successful history of investing in church loans for more than 100 years makes this an attractive fund for investors drawn to a missionally driven investment designed to deliver a competitive yield. The fund seeks to generate income for investors by investing directly in loans made by Thrivent to churches and other nonprofit organizations in the United States with a Christian mission. We believe that through Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund, investors can truly make an important impact on many lives. Our job as a portfolio management team is to knit together a diversified portfolio of many loans across a variety of national church bodies or denominations, geographies, and with varying loan sizes and maturities, all to create a well-diversified portfolio with a keen eye on overall portfolio risk. The team works with Thrivent Church Financing to source and structure the church loans. The team also carefully researches and analyzes every loan. We look at what the loan will be used for and how it will impact the Christian community, and especially evaluate the financial strength of each loan applicant against long-standing underwriting criteria similar to a commercial lender. Thrivent's church loans are typically held to maturity and are not actively traded. As a result, church loans have limited liquidity. In a nutshell, the fund seeks to provide a stable shareholder return and investments that deliver impact for Christians.
In December of last year, Judson Baptist was in the mix of looking at a refinance for a loan that we had initiated several years ago. This loan was for a 110,000 square foot building. It housed children's floors and adult floors and gathering space and things that we needed. And at the time, we raised millions of dollars, but we needed millions more.
The biggest thing that comes to us as a benefit from working with Thrivent is that it puts us on track to fulfill the vision that we feel like God's given us. And that's to be a church planting and sending center in Nashville, Tennessee.
So about 18 months ago, Judson rolled out a program called Gospel Engagements. Gospel Engagements was part of our rollout of a vision, a much larger vision, really detailing where we thought Judson should be in the next 5 years and over the course of the next 5 years. Gospel Engagement specifically, though, was a challenge to our people to engage people around them with the good news of Jesus Christ. More specifically, what is a gospel engagement, though? It's any opportunity to bring the name of Jesus into a conversation.
And so we set up a counter on a wall, and if you look at that wall closely, it's a map of Nashville. That's what it is. And in that is this counter that every time that we engage someone with the gospel, we just report that back because it's accountability for us and it keeps it front of center in our minds. And our hope is that we'll engage more people over the next 3 years with the gospel than we ever have before.
Obtaining this loan with Thrivent allows Judson Baptist Church to speed up any and all plans we have in our mission and our goals for this church and where we feel God has called us to go and to do.
Anybody that's ever tried to get a loan for a church knows how hard it is. We just don't fit the models. We don't have growth projections that businesses have. A lot of times we don't have capital just sitting around waiting to jump into the next project. The biggest thing that the loan did for our church was give us flexibility. No one offered the flexibility that Thrivent did. They work with churches. They understand church life. They understand the cycles of churches and what we deal with.
Because of how God is using this money for the kingdom, I feel like we've become part of a wonderful system of financial movement that is a movement.
Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund is Thrivent's first interval fund. An interval fund is a closed-end fund that isn't listed on any exchanges. An interval fund allows investors access to less liquid investments, such as private debt transactions. It's important to note that a shareholder's assets are not liquid, unlike an open-end fund, where investors can sell their shares daily. An interval fund shares can be purchased daily, but the fund conducts quarterly repurchase offerings. Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund is designed for investors who may want to positively impact Christian communities, seek investment return with fixed income asset class, are comfortable with limited liquidity, have a long-term time horizon, and are moderate conservative risk profile. Let's talk about some of the features of the fund. The fund is a fixed income strategy where dividends accrue daily and are paid monthly. It has a repurchase period where the fund offers to repurchase your shares quarterly in March, June, September, and December. Why are interval fund expenses typically higher? With a new fund, expenses are typically higher to get it launched, and the closed-end interval funds with limited liquidity normally have a higher expense ratio due to the uniqueness of the investment. Investments in the fund are private debt instruments that you cannot purchase in a standard open-end fund due to limited liquidity. It is common for funds to reimburse fees to bring the net fee in line with the average interval fund expense ratios like we've done in the Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund. This may not be needed as time passes and the fund gathers more assets. An interval fund offers between 5 and 25% of issued shares each quarter for repurchase. Shareholders will be notified of repurchase offers at least 21 days prior to repurchase date. Shareholders will receive details by mail on repurchase limits and request deadlines, and they must make the request by writing within the offer period. Should the repurchase request exceed the board-approved limit, all requests will be prorated and shareholders will receive less than they requested. Let's walk through an example of how this works. Let's say the portfolio value is $10 million. 25% redemption offered would equal $2.5 million of the fund. A client would like to redeem $100,000, and let's say the total fund redemption request from all shareholders was $1 million, which is less than the $2.5 million. The client would receive the entire $100,000 redemption. If the same portfolio value, $10 million, and the same redemption offering of $2.5 million, 25%, the client would still like to redeem $100,000, but let's say the total fund redemption request exceeds $2.5 million. The client will receive prorated redemption not equaling the full $100,000. The fund has a target allocation between 60 and 80% in church loans, which are low liquidity, 20 to 35% in mortgage-backed securities, which are higher liquidity, and 0 to 5% in short-term bonds or cash, which is also highly liquid. This is where the redemptions come from. Most of the assets are in church loans, which are not very liquid. The fund helps manage risk through diversification of the holdings by credit quality, by size of, and also by religious denomination, and also geography of the loan. An investment decision should always be made based on an investor's specific financial needs, objectives, goals, time horizon, and risk profile. Thrivent Church Loan and Income Fund should be considered a long-term investment holding for investors looking for investment return and to make an impact, and offers a unique opportunity to invest in Christian organizations.